was just in that entry scandal.
Right.
Mm. Okay. There we are. Oh, I thought I would had a funny while I was starting, but now I can't. Oh wait, where's my picture? I was just going to post a picture instead of me staring up at the other screen while I'm sharing things, but that's all right. Okay, I think Rich is coming maybe. So hi everybody. We're going to post the Zoom link if anyone cares to join us to discuss stuff we're talking about, or if you think it's boring and you have something better to talk about, an article or anything going on in the news or whatever, then please join and you're welcome to change the conversation. So let's see, let me just share this to Truthbound. So we were going to discuss an article that Ray Lutz posted, and I think he's going to come on Monday and talk to us about it. But it's about DARPA creating a voting system. Let's see.
Well, I think they were like a methodology of sorts, because they said they were going to open it up to other vendors to purchase it, and but they talked some concepts about how they wanted to see voting going.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was good, open source.
Open source, yeah, I saw that. But I saw ballot marking device, which that, you get into this terminology, and that is a little tricky there.
But they've segregated it from the voting process, so all it's doing is marking a ballot, which is fine. You have to have that for disabled and for people that want to use it. As long as it just marks a ballot. They talked about touch screen, but they talked about, which gave Ray the idea that they were going to invent their own CPU. They talked about they're going to develop their own hardware. So I don't know where that's going, because we'd want to be careful about vulnerabilities, CPU type vulnerabilities, port Spectre and Meltdown and the like sideband type vulnerabilities. So we'd want to see. But I mean, if they're going to develop their own CPU, which I didn't get that impression when I read it, but I mean that's a pretty major endeavor.
And I don't see it necessary.
Right.
I still say that the best voting system would be a programmable logic array with proms, not EPROMs, proms, with each of the local towns or precinct or whatever's data, and that should be able to be retrieved and verified then. And so with a prom, you put this GUI across it, and you can tell if somebody has doctored it or not. So you get verification that it's not changed, and using a logic array, you do not have a CPU. It is basically a rock with intelligence, and very unhackable. Not a lot of options to make changes to it.
Yeah, minimization is always good.
Hi, Lucas.
Hello.
It's been a long time. How are you?
I'm great.
I've been talking about election integrity a lot, but we were just discussing an article. You may or may not have seen it, but so that's what we're talking about right now. But feel free to, if you have a topic and want to get into, just jump in. And so you had sent me a list of kind of like independent media. Was there something, this was a while ago, but that you wanted to discuss about that? Was it kind of about creating a platform for all these groups, or I don't know, I'll let you
Well, it's kind of just like there's a lot of people I know. Like I started some local political discussion groups where I live that are starting to meet like bi-weekly or monthly and that kind of thing. And there's a couple different ones now that I'm involved in. And people, there's a lot of people who weren't previously involved in politics who want to be but don't know where to start. So I've been through and trying to like categorize and catalog different sources and like try to like grade them in terms of what I personally feel like their reliability is, or what I personally feel like their you can most accurately describe their political leanings. So if there's one that's like a more liberal establishment centrist kind of publication, like the New York Times, and I'll put that in that section. And then if there's one that's more independent and like progressive, then I'll put that one there, like the Black Agenda Report, or like Truth Dig or something like that. And then like for the right wing sites, I put like the American Conservative and Fox News and stuff like that. And then I also I haven't put this on that particular list yet, but I have another list that I haven't shared with anybody. It's a list of like all the far right Nazi sites and things like that. And so sometimes the mainstream right wing sites can get kind of into that stuff too, but usually they're not really so open about it.
Have you noticed, I've mentioned a couple of times recently, just that I kind of ran across a couple of different YouTube channels. There were postings on Twitter, and they were pretty, right wing, and they have a lot of followers, a lot. So I think it's something that we kind of in our progressive bubble need to be aware of, that there are a lot of people following those. I mean, they may have Alex Jones is not it. I mean, there are a lot of them. So anyway, what's your thought on that? Do you?
Yeah, there's a lot of Nazis on Twitter. Jack Dorsey seems to have like a thing about keeping the Nazis' free speech, protected, but he won't protect you if you call Ajit Pai or some Republican name. If you use dirty names or make mean comments towards like Chelsea Clinton or something like that. Well, then you're aggressive, lefty, and you should be banned. Like that's what Peter Douche, he got his first account was banned, and but there's like actual Nazis who will like go on and say hate speech, and they can get away with it for months being reported before they'll finally banned.
So do you still you don't do video, Lucas? I mean, that's fine if you don't want to. That's
it. My room's just really messy.
Oh.
And so that's why I don't. If like once I'm in Alaska, I'll probably be able to do video. I'm going there this summer, and I'll be out in nature, and it'll be nice. And so I go there and like call in and have a background. But here, my room is just it's a mess.
But worse than this?
I was gonna say, have you seen Mitch's basement? Look behind him.
Yeah, well, it's just that I have two cats, and they're both living with me in my bedroom, and there's a drum set in here and a bookshelf, and a computer desk, and just lots of cat stuff.
Don't say cat.
So, John, you haven't met Lucas. Lucas always had amazing stuff to add. Never comes on video, but used to be on Ebon's channel a lot. But Lucas, what are you, 19 or 20 now?
I'm 20 now. I'm going to be 21 in November.
Oh, okay. And he just would impress all of us with how much he knew, and his efforts at his community college to get a garden going. Just amazing, all the stuff I was so not tuned in at his age to all the activism, and I don't know, whatever happened with that, Lucas? You weren't able to put the garden on the campus because something was contaminated, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah, the stuff like the bureaucracy would have been overwhelming. I'm not sure I would have made it through that because
it is 10 p.m.
But
setting garden to night mode.
The main issue was that the soil there, like the weed killer that they had been spraying on the lawn there for years, it's like basically it's a pelleted dicamba. And it's very extreme. It's extremely toxic to anything that's not grass or GMO soy, basically. So we wouldn't have been able to grow anything on it unless we conditioned the soil for a few years with like lots and lots of like wood and other stuff that would bring the fungus in, and then the fungus would start to break down all the chemicals and make it so that and it would dilute it enough that other things could then start to grow. Then like the more life you're able to introduce to the system, the more that'll break down all the pollutants and the toxins in the soil. But that takes time. And in a project like that, you don't necessarily have that much time to get, results that are wanted. So I cut my losses on that and gave up on that. And then somebody locally wanted to start a community garden in my town, and I got involved with them. But the person who started it is very ideological and kind of crazy, and they had some drug issues. And so they alienated a lot of people whenever we were trying to build support for it. And they actually got like the city council to turn on he actually got the city council to turn on the project. And so for a while, we had to get a new spot and get new support. And then now we're just struggling to get there's only a few people who have actually been able to like volunteer their time to be on the council and start the nonprofit for the garden. And since we're all working class people, it's been hard to find times when all of us can meet. Mainly it's the other people. Like I usually can, give up my time because I'm just, doing my online classes, and I don't have a whole lot going on at part time. So I'm able to meet more. They're both working adults with kids, but we're still working on it. We're hoping we're going to be able to get stuff in the ground this year. Dover Community Garden.
Okay.
We've probably got over 100 tons of wood chips delivered to the site to condition and break down and build some soil there. We'll probably have several feet of soil here in a couple of years. Like if you look, it looks like a desert of wood chips, like just dune after dune, because we haven't leveled them out yet. And then I'm also taking Jeff Lawton's online permaculture design course, which this year went from 10 weeks to 28 weeks. It started on January 30th. And so by the end of the course, I'll be able to do permaculture design consultation work and charge my services and teach classes and things like that. And then I'm also doing an apprenticeship up in Vermont for 2 weeks at the end of April at Ben Falk, which is a permaculture apprenticeship. And like it's going to be all about like farm management and stuff like that. And then after a week after I get back from that, that's when I go to Alaska, and I'll be working in Rankin Elliott National Park in Alaska for 4 months.
Wow, cool. What are you going to be doing there exactly?
I'll be working as a dishwasher in a lodge.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Where exactly at in Alaska, if you don't mind me asking?
It's in McCarthy. It's a town of 24 to 48 people, depending on time of year.
Oh, okay.
24 to 48?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, there's only about 24 people that are willing to stay there all through the winter, because it just gets so cold and it's so remote.
Wow.
Gotcha.
So basically, you're washing 48 dishes a day.
Well, the lodge gets a lot more visitors than town. The lodge I'm staying at, the lodge I'll be working at is McCarthy Lodge Bistro, and I believe last year 100,000 people come through over the course of the entire year.
That's so cool, though. I mean, when you're young and you don't have a lot of resources, you can easily get kind of stuck, and that's just really cool that you're doing that, It takes a lot of courage to do that, I think.
Yeah, originally I was going to offer a job working at Yellowstone for Santerra, and that seemed like it was going to be exciting, but the internet connection isn't reliable enough there for me to do my online courses, and crazy enough, it actually is pretty reliable in McCarthy, Alaska, because they have a co-op there, and you can get really cheap internet. So if I go to McCarthy, I'll be able to do my online classes while I'm there, and I'll have, the largest national park in the country to explore for 4 months, which it's crazy to think about. It's 10 million acres, which is definitely more than the state. That's bigger than the state of Ohio.
Wow. We have some sound feedback somewhere. I'm not sure what's up. Was that you when you plugged something? Oh. Okay, maybe.
I don't know. I'll put my headphones on just in case.
I'm not sure what it is. It sounds like an echo of us, but I'm not sure.
It does sound like an echo. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a slight echo, but I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay, I think it stopped.
Hmm.
Huh. No. That's okay.
It was worth a try.
Sure. Okay, I think it stopped.
I just had the thought that since I moved my microphone by my speakers,
Hmm.
my microphone used to hang above. Now it comes up from below.
Now wait,
Yeah.
you're reclined how much?
About 50 degrees.
Oh, okay.
Does it look funny?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I guess we'll just kind of jump around here a little bit, but no, that kind of gives you an introduction to Lucas and all the amazing stuff he's already done at such a young age. I don't know how into election stuff you are, Lucas, or if you followed any of that. We get kind of technical here, or John does, and tries to help us understand.
I'm mostly just familiar with Greg Palast's reporting on Crosscheck and, you know, all the election way, and then also with Tim Canova and the Broward County, you know, that stolen election, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who had the goal to go down and talk about how illegitimate Maduro is. Like that just pissed me off to no end. Like if we really wanted Maduro to lose, then we put Debbie in charge of the campaign.
Right.
Actually,
Well,
the echo I think is from the phone. Do you have some earbuds, Lucas?
Yeah, I'll put them in and see if that helps.
That should help.
yeah, it was really nauseating when the first thing that I saw from HR1 on their website, the House Committee, was a video, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz is standing like right behind Zoe Lofgren when they're. It's like, wow, okay. It seems like a lot of just for show. I don't know. I just want to see everybody get behind some, one thing. Like it seems like everyone's in agreement about the paper ballots, but it's just so scattered and yeah, we still have an echo. Right?
I've got my earbuds in, so it's not me.
That's really odd. I don't know what that is. Hang on. Let me make sure. Am I on the wrong? Oh, you know what? I don't know if this would have affected it. No. I didn't have it on, I had it on a different setting, but that's not it. I don't know what it is. Very strange. Let's see.
How about now?
What?
Yeah,
Did you
whatever you
change
did.
something? Yep, I think.
I lowered my volume.
Huh. Okay. I guess that was it.
Huh. This is
Probably
probably
the feedback or something. Yeah,
yeah, it's a laptop, so the mic's
Oh,
on
okay.
speakers, I guess.
Right.
that could be it.
Well, anyway, yeah, I'm not sure. I just don't know what to expect next. How in the world are we going to fix the voting systems by 2020?
One thing I didn't like about the DARPA is that it gives you a receipt. After you vote, you get a receipt. And then they do the tabulation. And then all these encrypted receipts are posted up, and you can check your receipt against posted.
But didn't it have a
Once again-
barcode or something?
Yeah, some form of letting you know where to look, I guess, or how you voted.
Mm-hmm.
Tabulation is in between, right? So again, the tabulation is centralized, which is bad, and it's connected from the voters verification. Is they're having you verify after the tabulation on the site. So I mean, the tabulation could have gone. You would never know. You could look at yours and say, "Oh yeah, that matches," but you would never know if the tabulation was done incorrectly.
Right.
The goal in the methodology that I've been proposing is to bring it all the way back to the voter. Because like Ray Lutz brought up, there should be no trusted insiders. The only person we should trust is basically the voter trusting themselves. right? That they can cap the ballot. After that, everything should be checks and balances to maintain what the voter has already verified. Further you move that verification away from them casting their ballot, the more opportunity is, the more vectors for attack. And that's why, and plus it's centralized again. The centralized things, the easier it is to manipulate the whole. If you have a wide distributed, compartmentalized activity, even if one compartment becomes completely compromised, it's isolated from all the other compartments.
Right.
Well, that's why I think that we should switch to. I think we should switch to solely paper ballots and then have them counted like on like a public like live stream. Like they should be counted in public, and then it also should be live streamed for people to see. Yeah. Like as the results come in, and like it can, and like anyone in the district can like go and tune in, or anyone from out of the district can go and tune in and like see the results coming in live. And then there'd also be like, you know, a randomly selected team of like basically like a jury of public observers from the county who are like called in there, like, you know, like 10 random people that just like verify that no one was lying as they count the ballots. Like, and then it would all be live streamed. So there'd be like, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 checks and balances right there.
Yeah, that's good to have public observers with ready access, overseeing the election official as he's doing the checks. Again, in the methodology, the voter validated their ballot, and that ballot image and the automated interpretation that the voter approved is embedded into the image, is on the voting server in the place. If a voting official goes to hand count that ballot, their determination is checked against the voter's original validated approval. So you can't logistically handle paper ballots in a, you know, look at each one manner in really populated areas. It would take too long to determine the results. Again, exposing more time for problems.
Well, but for like recounts, I guess. I mean, like if you wanted to, like the election results that night, you could have all the paper ballots be scanned in electronically. But I feel like there should be like a mandatory recount over the course of like the following 2 weeks, where they have to in public, you know, go over the results to verify that they're true.
Yeah, and not just percentage recounts like what Ray's been battling, where they groom for certain types of ballots in certain locations. Basically, we would be able to recount to any degree of granularity, starting at the highest degree, which is the entire election, recount everything, and then bring it all the way down to, we can recount a state, we can recount a county, we can recount all the way down to the recount a polling place, or even if some anomaly is found, all the way back to the voting machine itself to see if we think this voting machine's been compromised, to recount the activity of that voting machine. And in the methodology that we're proposing, since the voter, at the time when they cast their ballot, validates the interpretation of that ballot, the tabulation itself, that then is stored locally, and it's at the time of the voter. So there's no way that tabulation can be modified without drawing attention to itself later at any level. And all the have to check. The precinct, theirs is the authority since they're right there by the machines. Once the precinct passes up all its images with their interpretations embedded into them up to the polling place to the precinct, then the precincts run it again. When they do the scanning and the automated interpretation of those ballot images, they have to compare it to the polling place. And those have to be exact.
Right.
That's another thing that I keep laughing at when I hear about our modern systems is there's degree of error. And how can there be a degree of error? I can't imagine, like we were talking previously, a bank having a degree of error when they count.
No.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
It should be 100% matched. The precinct has to exactly match the polling place. And at the county level, the county's tabulation, if they're doing it there or at the state level, has to match all the precincts. That's hierarchy. And if there's any anomaly along the way, you take it all the way back to the source, even if you have to go back all the way to the voting machine and draw the images from there again. So here, I'll put it in the chat. If you get the time, take a look at the methodology.
I think it just makes sense. It's a no-brainer. But, well, the other discouraging thing that I heard was about, I guess, how much money it will cost to certify it. I know we laugh, but it's just, huh?
I want to challenge Ray on that, because I looked it up when that Prime 3 group was saying that they were going to become certified in California, and I watched as they were on the list. I looked it up at that time, and it wasn't $10,000. It was a couple $1,000s here and a couple $1,000s there, but call it being $10,000 fee to certify. There was like a fee for the red team testing and such like that.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. We got to put up every barrier we can to, keep from having competition.
But if that's the cost, that's the cost. We just build it in. I mean,
I don't know. I think I'm suffering from a bit of apathy myself right now. Hopefully, when I go away.
Apathy?
Yeah, when I go away for a week or so, I'll come back more. I don't know. It's just it just seems like every roadblock there is, we hit it, and we've got to get all of these election integrity people have to get on the same page and behind one thing, I think, and then it could be pushed through. But it's just such a huge battle, and whatever it costs, I don't know. I mean, you have to. I mean, okay, so you have the EAC requirements, but that's confuses me because, as we know, some of it's voluntary guidelines, but then states have different the states have different requirements. But so I guess you have to pay the testing labs that check it, right? Okay, that makes sense.
If you're building to the highest standard, I mean, these things are not going to be a nod. That's another thing that cracked me up about that DARPA article. Was that they're going to build a secure machine. I mean, that's like saying you're going to build a car that drives. Of course you're going to build a secure machine. It's like, anyways, I go on forever.
Yeah, anyway, I don't know. I just...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lucas.
Well, I was going to say, any machine that's not 100% local, if it's connected to the internet, it's never secure.
Right. Absolutely. Well, yeah, anything that's connected to the World Wide Web. I mean, gosh, it doesn't take rocket scientists to figure out and hook up to the entire world. It's the World Wide Web.
Right.
There's nothing, for security in government spaces and the military, they create their own intranets. And I believe it's high time for the United States to have a USA intranet. And in those situations,
I agree.
They apply standards where basically you can't just plug in a computer and get an IP address. Every node on that intranet is known, its location is known. So if there's any stray traffic, it's easily identifiable. And if there's any nefarious activities, it's also easily identifiable to a location and a person responsible for that skip, right? So this is what we need for all our critical infrastructure. All power, all utilities, even banking and things you want to do in a secure manner in the United States. I mean, it's high time. And I mean, almost immediately we can create a VPN, a virtual private network, and carve out part of the internet for a more secure application, which was another idea for net neutrality. Everyone's, battling over net neutrality, non-net neutrality. Well, why not just divide the internet in half into two VPNs, make net neutral and the other, commercial or wild, There we
go. Yeah.
Well, I want to understand. These numbers are just obscene. Okay, this says that this is the article about the DARPA thing. $10 million contract that DARPA has launched to design and build a secure voting system. Why? Why is this $10 million?
And who'd they contract with? I mean, they saying
Right.
they received the contract?
It says
I thought they were building it. Now all of a sudden they got a contract?
now they might finally get this thanks to a new $10 million contract that DARPA has launched to design and build. The first of its kind will be designed by an Oregon-based film called Galois, Galois, a long-time government contractor. Oh, more handouts for government contractors with experience in designing secure and verifiable systems. Do you know anything about that?
Here's my question right off the bat. So what they're admitting to is that our current election system isn't secure and verifiable. I mean, that's what they're basically saying. They're admitting it. They're having to do this because our current system is not secure and verifiable.
And actually, 10 million is not that much for this kind of contract. Typically, I know that we were looking at expanding a machine, which was basically just putting new numbers in on our drawings, and we got more than $1 million. So when you're talking in just a few million to them,
yeah, I guess
you're talking about preliminary work. A lot of it's going to be seeing lawyers, and the little cost of moving paper around and getting the proper bundles paid and whatever to happen. So 10 million isn't much. That is a preliminary report.
But who's paying the 10 million? Obviously,
that sounds like
the company's receiving it. But where's the 10 million coming from? And
us, I guess, taxpayers. That's what it sounds like. I mean,
since this is a non-war item, I believe it would be a TTIR, a technology transfer innovation. I forgot what the R is for.
Well, where was the request for proposal? They just decided to give it to this one group. Why? Because they had enough.
Usually a TTR is let out, and a whole bunch of people get an opportunity to bid on it. You're correct.
Okay, well, it does say the system will use fully open source voting software instead of the closed proprietary software currently used in the vast majority of voting machines, which no one outside of voting machine testing labs can examine. Like, as you said, Brian, they're admitting that what we have is very flawed. More importantly, it will be built on secure open source hardware made from special secure designs and techniques developed over the last year as part of a special program at DARPA. I hadn't heard of this. I haven't heard of other people talking about it.
No. So it's open source software. That's good. Or open source application. And they also, from what you just said, is it's going to be an open source architecture, the hardware platform. So we would really want to know, and one of the replies to Ray was that the operating system, right? There's 24 million lines of code in Linux. So are you going to harden that down to something reasonable? Are we going to get to look at the operating system? What about rogue processes that are running on this machine? You can show me an application, show me the operating system, and show me the hardware. But if there's a process sitting in memory that's flipping bits or whatever, so there's just being open source at the application level, there's 7 layers to the OSI model. We need to figure all 7,
We need to remember to expand on our abbreviations.
Open source interconnect, open systems interconnect, OSI. It was the original model. It's like a pyramid. Transport layer on the bottom with physical things, application layer on the top. In between is the operating system and the hardware, network interfaces, and such like here. I think I have one actually. Let me look for it. But it's like when open source and when the whole Berkeley kernel thing was happening. It was here it is. Hold on, let me bring it up. So this was one. Let me share this one.
Here's my question: is the BIOS going to be locked down?
Yeah, Yeah, exactly.
I mean, right from the get-go, if that's not going to be locked down, then it doesn't matter if the software is open source or not. It doesn't make any difference.
Well, yeah, firmwares typically with hardware like that will want a letter of volatility. So we'll want to know on this piece of hardware they call a voting machine, any place on that machine that has non-volatile memory, meaning that if you turn off the power, whatever's stored in that location remains. So because you could have an onboard ASIC or some kind of chip or something that is able to store information that can be used to plant nefarious program processes or whatever launched in the memory. But
Oh, what happened?
shared out is the OLI, and it shows basically.
We lost you for a second there.
Yeah, repeat what you just said.
And before he repeats it, an ASIC is an application-specific IC. It's a little chip that does one specific. It's a one-trick pony that you put on the board. It takes task away from your other things. So it will do something special that would take all kinds of programming to do otherwise.
Thank you. Okay, cool.
And a BIOS is a basic output-input system that every machine would have. It's the basic operating system on any machine.
We need a little like Schoolhouse Rock kind of like IT thing for people. No, I'm not kidding. Like
I know we've been bad about using our abbreviations from industry.
Right. Well, I mean,
He's trying to.
yeah, that's okay. No, that's okay. I mean, a lot of people get it, and some of us don't. So it would be good. It's for a general audience to understand. But anyway, go ahead.
So this, can you see the display? This so that's the pyramid structure there with the 7 layers. That's called Open Systems Interconnect. It was basically how everyone was going to build to this open system standard. And basically what I was describing here was what I was talking about earlier, a USA intranet that I was talking about for utilization for the, at this time when I was doing these presentations, voting data. And then showing, so you can see on layer 5, that's where the operating, layer 5 and layer 6, that's where the operating system sits. So the transport layer and the network layer and the things, those are more physical. Transport layer being, oh yeah, and I do have some of the hardened. Transport layer being like the protocols that are going to be transferred over the next layer down the network. And across the network, how it's arranged into data links and the transport and such like that, or how the data is moved. But up high, so what we're with this new application.
Hi, Rich.
Hello.
Hello.
Brian.
With this new application, they're talking about open source at the application. Well, that's what I was saying is one in this entire model. What we need to be able to see is the operating system, how it's been hardened, what is on it. Like when you talked about the remote modems in the voting machines, remember? So there'd be some protocols that could be built over that remote modem. We'd want to know what protocols are available for transport. Does it have secure shell? That's called SSH. That's the way you can log in remotely to a computer and such like that. We want to, show some kind of security level. I mean, the USB port, you can go to hack5.org, buy a rubber ducky or a bash bunny, and hijack a USB port.
Right. I remember you.
And drop payloads that way. So we want to know, physically how the machine's been secured, what are the preventative measures that are taking place, what kind of watch processes are running on this to make sure that the machine's integrity stays in check as it's running. One rogue process can do damage. We want to catch those things. Here, I'll stop sharing this.
Okay, so the next thing it says, hi Rich, we got into talking about an article about a new voting system. Did I send you that link, Rich? Maybe I did send it to you.
I think so, but I don't think I've really gotten into it.
You didn't have time to read it yet. Okay. So then it says the voting system will also be designed to create fully verifiable and transparent results so that voters don't have to blindly trust the machines and election officials that they delivered correct results. But as you said, the tabulator, that's in the wrong spot. So how is that fully verifiable?
Well, it's not, because the verifications are on the two endpoints, right?
Yeah.
They're saying the voter's going to verify, going to go to a ballot marking device and mark a ballot, and then take that ballot and they're going to feed it into a scanner,
optical scanner.
It's going to do some kind of encryption for a receipt, and then that's sent off to some centralized tabulation facility, and then after it's tabulated, these encrypted receipts or the ballots or whatever are posted up publicly for the voter to verify. Well, so the two endpoints are the voters verified at the machine and got a receipt, and then at the other endpoint, the voters looked at some public website and they could see with their receipt how they voted. But in between, the man in the middle is the tabulation. Again, in the methodology we're proposing is that we want to take that all the way back to the voter. So once the voter verifies their ballot and they've verified the automated tabulation that's taken place from that ballot image, that's secured there, and the tabulation is a hierarchy. It percolates up. Instead of we just throw our ballot into the wind, somebody counts somewhere midstream and see it at the end of the bus ride.
Well, as that video I showed, which was a little outdated last time, but the guy, he explains that is where all of this happens, is the tabulation machines. That's where that happens.
And John, do you think we should not allow multi-core, multi-thread machines for this?
Absolutely.
Just to prevent on the rogues. Should we limit it to single core, single thread?
Yes, because of all the sideband issues, the port smash vector and the meltdown.
That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, Intel has a CPU built into their CPU. I mean, stuff like that, once that's hijacked or that could be used, again, we're trying to eliminate the trusted insiders. We don't want any trusted insiders. Everything should be the voter verified, and then everything after that is just preserving that verification and that. I mean, multi-threaded applications are fine. I just wouldn't want, like I said, CPU within a CPU or some kind of sideband hard.
In this case, where we're trying to be secure, why not?
That's true. It's not really an overly complex task. It could be single-threaded, and that, you're right, would be even more secure. Yeah.
Now, the RPi is single thread, single core currently.
You want to build it on Raspberry Pis? That's awesome.
Rich, if
Why
you
not? No, it's an option. That you presented
Yeah.
one that was nearly done, so you're going to be ahead of the method I'm suggesting, doing it with programmable logic arrays, is going to take some work. But DARPA has some excellent engineers.
Yeah, they do. I bet, or I would imagine.
Oh, wait,
They
Lucas,
do.
are you still here? Sorry, I just
Yes.
missed. Okay.
I was just going to say I'm glad I got to go out and talk to everybody and catch up a bit. But I do have to get up kind of early tomorrow to go out to my dad's and help him with moving because he's moving soon. So
Gotcha.
I'm going to be heading to bed. Just wanted to say that it was nice to talk to you all again and see your faces. And good night.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
nice
night.
to
Thanks
hear.
for coming
Lucas,
on,
take care.
Lucas. Keep doing
Lucas,
great
Lucas.
stuff. Okay, so, all right, I want to read this next part. It says, but DARPA and Galloy, I guess that's how it's pronounced, won't be asking people to blindly trust their voting systems are secure, as current voting machine vendors do. Instead, they'll be publishing source code for the software online, which most people aren't going to understand, and bring prototypes of the systems to the DEF CON voting village this summer and next, so that hackers and researchers will be able to freely examine the systems themselves and conduct penetration tests to gauge their security. They'll also be working with a number of university teams over the next year to have them examine the system's informal test environments. That doesn't sound that different to me than what we already have.
No, it doesn't.
DEF CON is great, but hackers there will not give us as much technical details as we want. Universities will give us more information. I just, why do they make it so complicated? Let's simplify it.
I mean, the DEF CON thing is good, but you got to put those people into a real world situation, right? The DEF CON where they went on all the voting machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kids physical access to the machine. They were pulling the cover off, and I mean, that's just not going to happen in a voting place.
No.
I mean, real world, and force them to hack in, the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say so, but that's good. You got a pool of very creative talent in one place. Why not plop it down in front of them? But really, what are they going to hack? The voting marking device only marks a ballot. It's like a glorified printer, right? Mm-hmm. And this other device, all it's doing is scanning the ballot and creating an encrypted interpretation, I suppose, of that ballot to pass on, or an encrypted receipt of it somehow. So, I mean, there's not much to hack there. Are they going to let out their tabulation magic? Release that? And again, like I said, if they're only releasing what you read, they're only releasing the application layer. That's not enough.
Right.
The application might be as clean as a whistle, but you got another process loaded onto the machine that's playing its side games. We got to know everything that's on the machine, every bit. We need to know every non-script binary that's sitting on that machine, right? A non-script binary has its symbol table still intact. So it could be working at a different, working other than the operating system intents with some library or something like that. So there's degrees of security that have to be applied to the whole, not just the application. It's kind of like, I mean, if their application, let's say their application is a couple thousand lines of code, right? You're asking each individual to look at a couple thousand lines of code and put it together and have some kind of objection to it. I mean, seems like a distraction to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't, like I said, the application itself could be a clean distraction for something that's residing on the machine. I want it package that's installed on, if it's an open source operating system, I want to know every package that's installed on that machine. On operating systems, all the parts come in what they call packages, right? So if I want FTP, file transfer protocol, which allows me to move files to and from this machine, I want to know if that package is installed, right? I want to know if there's a HTTPD daemon on it. That would be like a web server, right? Is this machine got some kind of, is the programming language Perl or Python or any other programming languages installed on this machine? So a nefarious person could put their code there, compile it, and have it run. So again, opening up the application layer is great. Opening up the hardware layer is great, but I want to know everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Originally, you could stick so much stuff in the hardware layer that Microsoft, when they originally did the layers, the first one was called the hardware extraction layer. And as the programmers started calling it hell, they decided to change the name. So the official term for it for Microsoft is the hardware abstraction layer. So, I mean, that you could play all kinds of tricks down there. And, I did them. I was an engineer at a factory that did the IBM Model 30 or Model 30 motherboard and the A70, A71 motherboards. We had A6 all over the place to before that, computers were just full of what we call popcorn, little ICs that did stuff in lockstep logic-wise. And the ASICs, the application-specific ICs, concentrated and said, well, do I really need to go through 1,000 stages when this always results in this if this happens? And it just said, okay, for when that happens and this happens, give us this result. And the ASIC knew how to do that. And it took down all the cycles of the CPU. It made the computers run a lot faster, made them run with a lot less power. But maybe for security purposes, we want to strip all the ASICs off the board and go back to popcorn.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about the motherboards for computers, again, would be 2 feet by 2 feet or stacked in a whole bunch of planes in a box.
Right.
But it seems to me more secure than something sitting there with ASICs that most people don't even realize there's an ASIC sitting on the board.
I have no idea what you mean, but I'm sure it makes sense. It's
Sorry,
okay.
I'll pick one up. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Rich, are you following this? Rich, are you following this?
Am I sleeping?
No.
All right.
Is that exciting, huh?
I'm not following it, but I don't really know enough about it.
I know, it's okay. I'm not either. I can follow some, but so the end of this article, though, it says that this company, Gallos, whatever, and DARPA have just stepped up and filled a vacuum of leadership at the federal level to address the well-documented vulnerabilities in U.S. voting machines that constitute a national security crisis. I have to disagree there. I don't think there's a vacuum at the federal level. What we've seen is this, I don't like the idea of DARPA and the federal government and DHS and all that stuff we've talked about behind closed doors doing all this stuff to give us secure voting systems. I think it needs to be like your system and in the hands of more of the people and at the local level where you're like your system. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's frightening.
Well, it has to be self-checking, right? We can't trust anybody along the way. We can't trust vendor's going to make something, a voting vendor. They have to make it to an exact specification.
Right.
Nope. And I mean, that's just what we need. So if DARPA, in this contract, if they want to take a shot at building a voting machine, great. Right. But we're trying to take a higher level at a design level. And that's where we've been going with pushing the methodology is getting all the comments and getting everybody to a place where we all can agree that this is the specification we want to build. Then it's in public domain. That was another thing. They talked about that it's publicly owned, and publicly licensed. Well, how? There's a number of ways to do that. Some of them are more open, and some of them are, near proprietary. I like the MIT because it's just wide open. MIT and Apache, I think, are the most open licensing schemes because it basically says, here's the stuff, do whatever you want with it, any guarantees. Go wild. And then there's things like GNU, the GNU, open source licensing, which says that if you utilize any other open source in this, it has to become GNU, and you always be bound from here forward to GNU. And so that down the road, if GNU changes their subscription method or their licensing, we're subject to that so I don't like things like that. I like it as open as possible. We want the public to own it. We want anybody to build to it. Well, Emacs.
This is not my book, and I have not read it, but I know the words. I recognize what you're saying, but
that book's for anybody that doesn't know VI. Sorry, book.
No idea.
It's an editor, basically.
Okay.
Editor with a lot of shortcuts, and it's nice. Don't get me wrong. GNU, I think they're part of. What? No, sorry. I was gonna say GIMP. GIMP.org. It's one of my favorite ARC programs. It's open source. OpenOffice.org. open source. I don't think they're under GNU. In fact, Linus, the author, you might say, of Linux, he didn't like the GNU licensing for that. He actually openly complained about it. I think the kernel is, parts of it are GNU version 4, I think it was. And at any rate, that's another thing to be careful of, how it's licensed, is all I'm saying, in way too many words.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think it's important that, people that work in this will understand it. But for the general public, yeah, it's, I don't know. Rich, what do you think? I mean, people don't understand.
Well, I worked in foreign places quite a bit in my life, and I think if you have 6 or 7, 8, 10 people working at a precinct, voting precinct, if it's on paper, you can have them go through, and of course, if there's 30 different elections on your ballot, then do you count each individual election, or you count, but you can have people at the poll actually make tabulation to count the votes, because you only have 300 or 400 people, that you can do it manually, just say, well, this is how many there is, and then write it down on a piece of paper or somebody just and hand that in and say, this is what our poll did,
Yeah.
And if you're a voter, can you, if it's on paper, you put it in a machine and it counts your vote. The machine you're talking about, John, is at some point, any point along the line, I can go in and I can have access to my ballot, my actual ballot, and I can see whether it says that I voted for the people that I voted for. And so if somebody says, well, hell, that isn't the vote I cast, if you have too many people checking and saying, well, there's something wrong because that's not my ballot, that's not what I voted for, then you have is that the kind of check you're talking about? The voter would be able to, at the end of the process, they can look at it and see if it's actually their ballot, what they voted for. And so if it wasn't, then they can complain about it to the precinct or to the county administrator, or whatever, or they can report it to the newspaper. Say, hey, that's how I vote.
Right. They have to, and then they could take it back. But my complaint in the DARPA methodology was that the counting is in between. So the voter sees their ballot, and then they pass it. It's counted, and then the voter sees their ballot. But we don't count it correctly. So in the election.services, and the methodology that we're proposing is that the voter validates they do a paper ballot, is made of that ballot, and then that image is interpreted for their voter selections. If it says, yeah, these are the selections that I made, then those selections are encoded and then embedded into the image. So now you have 3 checks. You have a physical ballot in a ballot box, an image of that ballot, and then you have within that image an encoded area that contains what they validated as their selections. In the methodology that we're proposing, that happens once again. The image is passed inside the precinct, because we compartmentalize. Inside the precinct, that image with that encoding is passed up to the server. And the server does the same thing. It goes through the image, and it makes an automated interpretation of it, and then it compares server interpretation encoding with the encoding that's inside the image. If all those match, now we've got the image.
And they have to match.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise,
there's nothing wrong. Yeah.
Right. Then the ballot comes back out of the voting machine to the voter, and it says, hey, we've got some kind of anomaly. You got to fix this. You got a double mark here. You got to, you spilled coffee, and I can't tell what you marked over here. Whatever. It could be anything. But now, so if there's anything wrong in that, then we got an issue. And it's the same thing. Like I was saying, now you have on the voting station itself an image and an encoding inside that image of what the voter verified as their selections. Sorry, my light. And then on the server, you have the image of that ballot, and they're serialized, so I can always trace back to the voting machine. You have
Right.
of the ballot and the encoding that took place there, and these are all stored. So then at the end, basically each voting machine has got a tally, and they've been passing that up, and the server's got a tally, and it knows where the ballots came from each voting machine, so those have to match. All those match, then we have a preliminary result. And it's all voter verified, and it's all within the precinct or the polling place.
Right.
A hand count, right? But the hand count is exactly like the voting process, except that the voter is replaced with the voting official, and now there's public observers there, and they can see everything that's going on overhead. So the voting official, just like the voter, drops the ballot into the voting station, and an image is made. And that image is interpreted. And then the voting official sees on their screen, and everyone sees on the overhead monitors, physical ballots it's under glass, it's on the voting machine, but they can see it on the monitors. They see the image, and then they see the encoding, the automated interpretation of the ballot. And they can all agree. Now, there's one extra step on the hand count, is that the voter verified ballot image and the encoding of the interpretation of their selections is also on the server. So now the official says, yes, these all match. Just like before, the same thing happens. That image that was taken at the hand count is moved up to the server. It's interpreted and encoding, and then the server can compare the hand count off the serial number with the interpretation that was done that was voter verified. So now we're checking the voting officials and everyone's there against the voter verified interpretation of what took place on that ballot. If it matches, great. Now let's say it doesn't match. Let's say someone used whiteout on the paper ballot while no one was looking, although in the design proposing it's a ballot box hopper that feeds to another ballot box. So no one, because part of the Secretary of State's complaint was they didn't want to touch the ballots because they felt like it would be irresponsible. So we talked about a ballot box to ballot box situation where it flows through the voting station during the hand count. But at any rate, all those have to match.
Like the paper ballot, and you have little things like tags that you sort of lock up the box with the thing on it so it cannot be opened, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, it would be locked.
And a box that has the ballots in it, you put that in a thing, you put a closure on it. So it hasn't been
physically locked, and each ballot box is associated with the machine. Because you have a voting machine that fails after producing 5 ballot boxes full of ballots, right? For tolerance, you just move to a new machine, but we still have all the information on that failed machine, and we still, if we have to, we still have all those physical ballots.
Right.
In an exception or some kind of special case, we could still recreate away from that broken machine. But the part about the hand count is that since it's distributed in each polling place, and basically it's using the same number of voting stations as was used to handle the number of voters, you should be able to do the hand count in the same amount of time or less than the polling period itself.
Right. That'd be like one day or whatever, right?
Yeah, if the polling period was one day, and this many machines produced this many ballot boxes full of ballots, then when the voting official goes in, they should be able to process those on the machines in the same amount of time. So then it gets to be a timely, now you get a hand count result. And as long as that hand count result now matches the preliminary result, which happened during the polling period, that polling place has as a verified election result. And then that again can be, but the thing, you can do this as many times as you want. Let's say they want to have an audit of a polling place. They could run through again in the same time as the polling period and do the entire polling place and check the results. And since all the ballots are serialized and they're known what station they came from, any anomaly you find in a later audit, we can trace all the way back to the voting station itself, and we can that preserved voter verified image and the encode, the automated interpretation that they approve. We could take it all the way back to the source, the voter themselves. That's
Okay,
what I think is most important. And all the other methods are always, there's always some sort of trust handing something off to somebody else. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
we may have to start serving drinks for these discussions.
Are you making meals?
Yes, I made one.
You made, is that a Republican mule?
Hey,
Oh,
we're
what?
fine.
Yeah, no, it's a Moscow mule because I'm a Putin puppet. Don't you know?
That's
So
right.
I have this mug for that, and then I have my, Russian WikiLeaks mug for my tea.
Uh-oh.
I'm good to go. Anyway, well, I thought we could. Where'd you go, Mitch? You vanished. I was listening from the other room.
That's good.
But
I mean, Rich, what do you think?
I think I like what you're saying about how you have a set of data that matches another set of data at different points along the line. And then when you get down to the point of physical recount, then you actually run the physical ballot through, and that all of the data points have to match the other sets of data that have been compiled during the process. And that makes
I have
sense.
a presentation. I'll put it into the chat. If you want in your spare time, you can see.
all right, who wants to talk about Beto O'Rourke?
I was going to say, I did bring down a motherboard and a microscope.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
We can look at the ASIC.
yeah, I was
Or
going
is
to
this multiple ASICs.
So when she hears these words in the future, it means something.
Oh,
And get my control screen back up. Okay.
was that a link you wanted everybody to see, John?
Yeah, that's to the methodology that I've been proposing here with Kelly.
Okay.
And it's really very straightforward. I mean,
And
think.
we're really open to input.
yeah.
Observations like Ray, I'm going to do another whole section about auditing into the presentation to help with Ray. And then some other graphical things that he wanted to see with the servers and the overhead monitors and things like that. But see anything in it, any comments, anything you like, anything you want to add, it's a moving document. The whole point of it was to get us all talking.
Okay.
A guy at Boeing told me a picture does 1,000 words. He goes, draw me a picture. So that's why I do it.
The little stick people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's good. I mean, it's pretty clear to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is very, very confusing. I mean, ever since, what was it? I think last May when we first did a couple of panel discussions on this. And I was interested in it because of what I saw in the primary and what happened in Broward County. So, but, a lot of the election integrity people, they're all in agreement about paper ballots, but they're kind of all over the place on what areas they focus on. And it's just really hard as someone who you're new to it to try to follow all of this. It's very confusing. So they have to get everybody behind the same thing, I think, and just push that through. I don't know.
Or at least get the points that we want to stress out at the public consciousness, right? You can hear now these DARPA article mentions open source, right?
Yeah.
In 2016, saying open source voting machines was like taboo.
Right, because that sounds open, like anybody can get into it, right? That's what people think.
But now people understand.
Yeah. It seems like when I fire up my microscope, I can't see my microscope when when this camera is on. Maybe I can only have one at a time. I thought I did them both before. But this is a motherboard. Now she walked away from the screen.
There it is.
I'm familiar with that one. That's a ROG.
Yep, it's a ROG.
990 FX.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a common motherboard in a computer. It has multi-threading capability. It's an okay computer, or it was. It's dead now. But on it, there's these little chips, and most of these are ASICs. Some of these are what are called popcorn, the little logic chips that are part of the computer. But they tried to get rid of as many of those as possible. And I actually can't even read what these numbers are anymore. So I can't tell which ones they are. But an ASIC is made for usually that board. But now they sell chipsets that do a whole group of things at once. And these chipsets, there's one on here, right here. Now, if I can get light on it, you can see it. It looks like a bug, and they actually used to call them bugs. Now, that one does something that you shouldn't see on an election machine. And if you put a screwdriver in there, you can pull it out, and you can stick another one in. So you do something like waxing it or something to tell that you put it in, like they used to do for letters. But again, these are just these little chips, and they're so small and they're so black that somebody might not even realize that they're on there. And that is powerful enough. That's almost the same size as the one running your cell phone. This little one right here.
So maybe, Mitch, you could explain the danger that an ASIC could pose to.
An ASIC can be a complete computer running on there.
Right.
In one case, it could be mimicking a keyboard. If it has a lead on it that is an inch long, maybe a little bit more than an inch, some electrical engineer with radio experience could tell me the exact length that need to be. But it could talk to outside devices. So any bit of security you can have with the right ASIC on board could
override it real easily.
Could be a complete backdoor to get onto your system, and any ASIC made or motherboard assembled in some other country, not under the controller, could have several ASICs that have purposes that we wouldn't really like.
And what I find disturbing in that article is that it does mention open source software and all that, but it doesn't mention anything really about the hardware.
That they were developing.
And I'm for open source hardware. I mean, I'm for knowing what the hardware is. I'm against having the hardware done by a blanket contract to unknown people. I made computers for the parts of our defense department that didn't want to be compromised. And we treated those as though they had the data on them, not so much because they had any classified data on them. We did not want them compromised when they did get the data on them. So, we had this complete blank books. We had armed guards. People didn't know our facility even existed. Until we actually killed some people. But no, that's factories,
This is a little off topic, but when I first saw this and I heard DARPA, I instantly thought of something I had heard within the last 6 months. There's an investigative journalist by the name of Yasha Levine, and he wrote, wait a minute, hang on, what's the book? Surveillance Valley, and it's the secret military history of the internet. And I mean, I didn't know all this stuff about DARPA, and I know you guys do. So I thought we could kind of segue into talking about that a little bit. If whatever you do know, I think it's fascinating.
Well, I remember it back from the 70s, and the reason we had it is because we had such an insignificantly small school district that they thought that we would be the survivors after a nuclear war. Because we were just too unimportant to be a target. So DARPANet came to the schools to allow us to communicate, to set up an education system in case Bad.
Interesting.
And that's all I know of the early beginnings. And we used, I remember when we upgraded to an 88 baud modem, 80. It's hard to remember exact number that many years back, but people type faster than 88 baud.
So,
And, then we didn't hear about it. The next thing we know, it's being called the internet. And it was real easy to crash back then. I think a movie got made about one of my accidents.
Oh, God.
And it was really embarrassing when I went to college. My first college instructor for Fortran discussed what he got his PhD on, and he was describing a program. And when I was in high school, I'd written this program about it was a video game. Wouldn't be appropriate back then. We did not have video. It was a computer game about being on an island with incontinent lizards. So the situation was pretty unique that probably wasn't duplicated by somebody else. And then the lizards were named after the island to get you with it. So, it started out, you're on an island full of get you with it lizards. Do you want to play a game? And I was trying to find out how much memory I was allowed to have because they didn't tell us. So I wrote into it to seek out and obtain as much memory as it could, and to grow this 12-dimensional island, because of data, opportunities and things, and options that a lizard could do. So at each step across the island, you had the ability to hop, step, or make a haphazard leap, or just retaliate against the lizard. And so again, these options were rather unique. So the guy starts reading the description of this computer program, and I just like, oh no. He got a PhD on one of the mistakes because of the havoc it wreaked. They thought it was an intentional virus. And they never did say the exact extent of what it did. But then I see this movie that came out in the 70s where it starts off, do you want to play a game? And, Hollywood always exaggerates things, how severe they were. I don't remember the lizards ever actually launching missiles.
if you're just tuning in and you're really confused, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's quite all right.
You guys with weird
No,
stories.
you're not.
It's interesting, that the movie board game started that way.
Yeah, and that was after.
Very interesting.
So what do you guys know about DARPA and the start of the internet? I mean, this was all kind of new to me. Oh, and by the way, if you want to hear more from Yasha Levine, I was listening earlier before we went on. Anybody listen to the 0 Hour with RJ Esco? I think it's a great YouTube channel. He does good interviews. He had Yasha Levine on. This was last March actually, but this one was The Whole Net is Cambridge Analytica. So it's very interesting stuff.
The original idea of the network, the internet, again, the DARPA net was made to function after nuclear war. And during, before, and after all of it, right? So it was meant to have major parts of it blown away. And originally they used what was called hot potato communication, where you didn't know what the path was going to be to your destination. And the original, you might be able to help me with this, John, because it's been so long and my knowledge of it was so small. But you would basically send your packet to the first available other place that could hear you. and it would send it on to any other place except you that it could hear, in the hopes that since it was happening at digital speeds, eventually that packet, which would have information on how the packet would be reconstructed when it got to the other end, put it back together. So we had an extremely fault-tolerant method of communications that was meant to link, 50,000 communities together, thinking that at least 30,000 of them would be obliterated, so that there would be no given pathway between them. And so now, just also turned out to be a great way to put viruses about, monitor people. There's just all kinds of ways you can do it. It is so hard to control because it was originally intended to be so tolerant of going around blockages.
Yeah.
John, does that sound pretty accurate?
Oh yeah, we definitely.
Oh, you froze.
In cyberspace, we need to create funnel ways so that we can at least have control. But yeah, it's a net. It's dynamic routing. Oops, my network connection is unstable.
We got you back.
Yeah, you're back.
It's dynamic routing, and you're absolutely correct. You pass it and to the next guy, and maybe he knows the route. He passes it to the next guy. Same as today.
I have a question. Back in the very, very early days, right at the very, very beginning, was the internet operated on servers, or were servers in place that were doing the things you're talking about? Does that sound like a relevant question?
DARPA, I think, was 12 servers along backbones. The backbone meaning a hard communication path, like a buried cable.
Yeah.
With a backup of a microwave link above ground.
And then microwave in the air to send packets or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So all of it had multiple possible paths, thinking that who knows which ones or how many are going to survive. So there was
hard cables and
DARPA was meant to survive really bad stuff.
Yeah. So it all coexisted and was part of the system. Sorry.
Right. And you used to see a lot of facilities around the United States, every 23 miles. Does that sound about right? Every 23, 26, that looked like a radio antenna, but they'd have like these boxes on them. And that was one of the backup systems. A lot of those are for sale now. They're excellent facilities. So they'll have a garage up above, and then there'll be a bunker below.
Isn't it amazing how many things like that, like, we just don't notice? Like, you could, I mean, you would know. It's just.
Well, you notice them when you see a small garage with nothing there, this tower behind it, and then 150 feet out from the garage in different locations, you see these little things coming up out of the ground that look like this. They're basically pipes that go up and down, air vents. You don't have air vents unless you have a bunker. Yeah, you don't have vents unless you have a bunker down below.
Yeah.
And these vaults are excellent spots for setting up websites and other things like that. And people are using them for marijuana grows in states where it's legal, because they're just wonderfully the same temperature every day of the year inside. Good electrical service, good phone service.
Interesting.
But it's not just one trunk.
No.
That's the internet. That's the thing, is servers can be attached to multiple networks, and their routing tables tell them which direction to redirect that packet. So it is a big giant net with all where it crosses. Those are servers that are multiple networks.
Like the internet.
Yeah, like I said, originally it was 12 nodes, which were basically at 12 universities, plus whatever was on the other side of the wall the public didn't talk about.
How do they cross the ocean? How does the internet cross the ocean?
Two ways, or actually not two, three or four. One, underwater cable.
Yeah.
There are more than one. One, I remember one comes up in Ireland.
Yeah. That's
right.
A good place.
I forgot where it goes under.
You can Google map of the internet, and you'll see it's a global.
Really?
Yeah, there are dishes that if you send up to a satellite above you, then that satellite can see another satellite 90 degrees around the planet, and that one can see another one 90 degrees. You can bounce a signal all around, and that signal will bounce around until it finds you.
And that's part of the internet also, this satellite system.
Satellites, microwaves,
yeah,
ships, aircraft. There are, the military doesn't rely on one toothpick. They have a bundle of treaties. I think that's an accurate statement.
Will all of this stuff give you brain cancer if you have too much of this stuff in the air? You know?
Well, again, when you start talking brain cancer, the distance you are from the emitter matters. The distance you are from the stream. Microwave is like a laser beam. It doesn't spread out. It is focused.
Right. Very focused.
Yeah. So, your distance and the intensity of the stream matters. The frequency of the stream matters a lot. Yeah. Now, the ones that are used for telecommunications and radar will melt. And if you're in the stream, there is a danger. If you're not in the stream, not so much. So there is a danger with everything. Just sitting on the planet without, you have microwave radiation. If every single tower in not the United States, but the planet shut off, you would still have microwave background radiation from space.
Right.
Okay, yeah. It comes from the sun or wherever,
Yeah, and it's many different frequencies.
And, okay.
I saw something recently.
And that's why we have evolution. That's why genetics are modified, and that's why monkeys became man.
Part of it. There are multiple vectors. Another one that people don't realize is there's more than one kind of water. Deuterium hydroxide can impede the splitting of a cell. Tritium hydroxide can kill a cell. So as you drink water and you get the different varieties, tritium hydroxide is very rare. So the different ones do different things, and they can alter your DNA. So the frequency of DNA altering can be pretty well predicted. And my wife used to teach evolution at college, and one of her classes was on she had to do the teaching the students to mutate flies. And for weeks we'd have all these flies in our refrigerator. She'd have them in a container. She was breeding the flies, and you put them in the refrigerator so that you could slow their growth for a while, so that during the lab you've got all these flies that are about the same maturity.
Right.
Sorry if I got off on a track there.
Well, I was a biology chemistry major back in college, and that's something a very interesting line of reading, study, or whatever.
Did you do the black eyes, red eyes experiment? Does it stick in your head?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But there's a lot I haven't done, I'm sure.
But every student that went to that school that she went to, if they were a biology student, they had to do the red eye mutation.
Cool. The red eyes of people? No.
Flies.
Flies, okay, yeah. There you go. Wow.
Because
so many generations, that's why they're
the flies grew fast, and by the end of the 6-week course, they had a whole lot of mutated red-eyed flies.
So, hey, Rich, you went out dancing before this? Before you come talk? Yeah. Do you talk politics?
I met a girl named Beverly. Cute little girl. Lived in Shepherdsville by 21 years. But someplace else 21 years, so she's not eating spring chicken, but she's not even near my age.
So do you talk politics in those circles, or no, not so much?
Do I talk? Oh yes, absolutely.
You still talk? Okay.
Yeah.
So
everybody knows I'm not normal.
So what do you hear from non-political people when they do? What kind of stuff is important? I mean, are they talking about candidates running next time around yet, or what's on people's minds that you hear?
God, that's a good question. I really think that the people who are involved in politics, like that cartoon, 1/3 of the people have an interest in even knowing what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the people say, well, screw, my box on both houses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about it. I'm going out dancing, and I'm doing stuff with my kids, et cetera, et cetera. My grandkids are going to be in a play, The Sound of Music, like in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go see that. So people have all kinds of stuff they do that has nothing to do with politics. Most people, they don't think there's any good candidates from Republicans or Democrats, so most people are sort of giving up. They don't really give a damn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They should, obviously.
It's that apathy, though. I mean,
voter apathy is a big damn thing as far as I'm concerned. I think if you could only have 100% of the people vote
mm-hmm.
for the last 50 or 60 or 100 years or whatever, we might have had a totally different government. We might have a more reasonable society, a more sustainable society if the country wasn't being run for the billionaires and for the people at Wall Street.
Absolutely.
So our people, the bulk of the people are not being represented, and
mm-hmm.
It shows up in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Poor medical care, poor educational systems.
Yep.
When I went to school, I paid $1,200 a year for going to college.
Wow.
That was room and board, tuition, everything else. The state of Kentucky took care of the rest of it. I went to college for. I really went for 5 years. It should have been 4, but hell, I'm starting slow, So the cost of education has gone up, and what people
mm-hmm.
pay for education today is so much damn more than
mm-hmm.
when I went
mm-hmm.
to school. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why it was just very tone deaf of when Hillary, and it was a debate, a Hillary and Bernie debate, and she says,
yeah.
well, I paid my way through school or whatever. I worked in college.
Right.
It's not the same thing anymore.
Well, she's in my generation.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to pay your room and board by having a newspaper route. I mean, let's get real.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Well, I did. Damn near that.
Sure, but yeah, you're more in touch. You know that things aren't the same as they were then. But
things are not the same now as they were then.
No.
Totally reverse. I paid about 20% of the cost, and now they pay 80% of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about that kind of reversal, So.
Yep. I mean, good luck buying, toothpaste and toilet paper. You might be able to cover that stuff. That's about the extent of it with a part-time job. But no, I just wondered because we kind of in our circles we pay a lot of attention to stuff, and I don't know, lately I've been struggling with my own apathy about it all. I think there are kind of a couple of categories of people. I think there are people that have always been apathetic towards it. They don't know very much about politics, and they don't care to. And then there are people that maybe they used to be in it, and it you see the system. I mean, that's kind of what I'm struggling with right now is, just feeling like, God, it's just so overwhelming. There's so many roadblocks just to getting fair elections that I don't know. I'm just saying you can see where the apathy comes in because it feels like, and of course the system wants the activists to be like, oh, it's pointless. Let's give up. Because as long as nobody's paying attention.
4 years before the planet's all gone.
4
years.
Oh, yeah. My daughter keeps mentioning that.
Danger, I think. It's really getting very bad on the climate change. It really is. We don't have much time to correct that.
Mm-hmm. Is it? It's 12 years till it's like totally irreversible. Yeah.
She misread that from the UN's environmental report.
Oh.
It was 12 years to act.
Oh.
But basically their suggestion was a reduction of carbon emissions by 50%.
Yeah.
Which is definitely needed. We can, and I think the whole global warming or oceans rising and stuff like that is a distraction. Really, I've said multiple times on while we're talking here, is the measurable ocean acidification that we're seeing. Not only that it's going that the ocean is becoming more acidified, but at the rate of change. I read an article that was describing the extinction events, the 5 extinction events, and talking about the rate of change was really the species couldn't adapt fast enough to change. But we definitely have to act. I'm a proponent of thorium power. I think if we could convert this country over to thorium power, we would just change. It would be a game changer for the world.
What's thorium? What's thorium power?
Molten salt.
Molten salt. Okay.
And I first ran into it at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. I was there working on a computer.
Yeah.
There was a group of scientists there that fired up the old from the 60s. They furbished it and they fired up a thorium reactor. And so everyone was talking about it, what was going on, and how really
Oh,
You're frozen up again. You're saying some good stuff, man. I'm
Yeah.
interested.
that's why we had to kill him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That's odd. You've never had issues, John. If you can hear us, this is the first time we've really seen your internet.
Oh, he can hear us now talking? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Unless,
He'll
it's
suddenly
really
see us
frozen.
just jump around like this, and then we'll come back up to him.
Yeah. What is that? Is that thorium? Is that something? What I mean, fusion. I can see. I mean,
It's thorium is fission.
do that. Huh? Is that
Thorium is fission.
fusion?
And it's fission. And it is.
Yeah, but fusion would be the best thing. We get the fusion.
Oh, we lost him.
He'll probably come back in.
Yeah, well, he's coming back out. He's going to know what I'm going to talk about here anyway.
Yeah.
So this is unclassified.
Good.
And this is available to the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you just know what you're looking for. Okay, are you seeing a screen that looks like a word processor?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
There's
This
a
is
continent.
this is one of the requests for research that, in this case, let's see, it'll say on the top who's asking for help. So it's United States Special Operations Command, and they're asking for small businesses to propose ideas to solve these issues. So they're asking for, in this, it says what you have to do to get it,
Yeah.
how you apply, who can apply, if foreign nationals can apply, and whatever like that, topics, and then it'll have descriptions of what they want. So the one, they're asking for an austere environment virtual planning tool. So this basically is a planning tool that works with your cell phone, but can process geological, like mountains, terrain around you, or objects around you.
There he is.
There he is.
And
bastards.
so if you show your camera from your screen on your cell phone, you'll see extra items to tell you about what's on around you, or picture something happening in there that isn't happening in real world, to help you, like in targeting or something like that. Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, this is marked on here that it's unclassified, and this is available, and this is how the Department of Defense and Department of Energy, each of them has their own groups, and this is our requests for public operations. And I would guess if we looked, we would have seen one of these from some department that asked for that program. And this is how you bid on the different things they're asking for. So I'm going to stop the share.
That's interesting. That kind of activity is going on.
Oh, you go through that. You sometimes they will put out strange requests.
Yeah.
Sometimes I remember one from the Air Force in I think it was 2004 that were asking, "Does anybody have time travel equipment?"
Really cool.
No. And they will pay you just to answer the question. Do you know of this happening? Do you know? And it can be something very, because there are people whose sole job it is to think of strange scenarios and see, and they write little books. If this happens, do this, or they present to their boss. We thought of this strange scenario, and we checked it. We saw that it had no possibility, and no possibility or remote chance of happening is a real actual thing that they would write. Right. They would also write, or something like, well, if the aircraft was pointed at a building and it had full of fuel, if they put down something like what could have happened there, then they would have contingencies that they have to say. Mm-hmm. So once somebody comes across a real plausible scenario, they have another person whose job it is to go out and see if there's any answers. And they will put requests for, are there shoes that our soldiers could wear that possibly could create a mold that will kill them? And somebody can get a $10,000 grant just to go out and look for research materials on shoe soles. Right. This is where you go for that. And that's why I say $10 million for something as big as that, probably not a large contract. That would be just a contract.
There's something that, when I was a special agent Army intelligence, we studied some things. They have a thing called order of battle. You know what that is, right? And what order of battle is, it's about 25% of the military budget of their activities. It's all about what happens in different war scenarios. And you have people who specialize in what happens if Great Britain attacks Cuba and the United States. And how would that play out?
Yeah, in 2004,
use that situation in the world, every possibility. There's some general or some officer that's looking into that and planning for that eventuality.
In 2004, George Bush gave a speech. 2004, 2003. He wanted other countries to join in our bidding against Iraq. And he did the speech, "You're with us or against us." Mm-hmm. And the next day, or was it the day before? There was this. I thought we called it a TTIR, but maybe they've changed the name of it or something.
Yeah,
we're at a meeting and we were presented unclassified plans for attacking all European countries in case they weren't with us.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's order of battle. That's exactly what order of battle does. It's you have order of battle. You have supply, chain of supply. That's one part of it, and you have the intelligence part, and then you have the actual military part, the actual military operations and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we were bidding on the
order of battle is 25% of the activity.
Yeah, we were bidding on the weapons to attack all the major cities in Europe in 12 hours.
Yeah, right. I mean. They look at every eventuality, but
again,
how will time travel affect that war?
But I felt that was unclassified and released to us, the public, as a threat to Europe.
Yeah, right.
Normally, the public does not get something like that.
Well, actually, the fact that order of battle is a big part of the military, that's almost confidential.
Yeah.
Maybe the secret level.
And they were handing out CDs. Here's what we're going to do.
Because that's not something they want advertised that much, actually.
No, again, I believe, I concur with you. It's usually not something when they're handing out CDs that say unclassified this, show this to everybody.
Yeah.
So they wanted to send Europe a message. You're with us or against us.
Right. That we wanted to attack Iraq. Well, George Bush did, the commander-in-chief wanted to. But the order of battle exists, regardless of whose leader is. That's part of the job that they do.
Yeah, well, they should be doing it.
Yeah, that's part of their everyday activity. Yeah, absolutely they should. Yeah, the Pentagon.
That is a valid and necessary cost.
Yeah.
And, think about it. We have everything from, what to do if there's water shortages on. So,
in fact, that's the military is probably more aware than any other part of the country about climate change and its effects and what it'll do to military situations and preparations and et cetera. And the military is concerned about climate change very much.
the National Guard has so much water equipment that California has a law against them using their water purification equipment to supply water for the populace of California, unless all of the water from all vendors had sold their water first in an emergency before the National Guard is released to use their equipment.
Interesting. Huh.
Because the National Guard was like, hey, this is what we're using with your money. We're ready for you if you have a storm. And then pretty soon it's, nope, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So they had these diesel trucks with RO systems on them that could go anywhere. If they couldn't go anywhere, a helicopter could pick them up and drop them where they had to go. You know, and of course, you got Nestle and all the other, with all of this water stocked up. Even Coors beer bottles water in beer cans for emergencies.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, you know, you have a lot of people that are banking on horrible disasters to sell a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is, in fact, there's a G1, G2, G3, and G4. And I think G1, maybe order of battle, logistics is one of those, and intelligence is one of those, and then military operations is like the actual armed forces or whatever, their operations. But the G1, G2, G3, and I forget which one order of battle is. It might be G2 or G3 or whatever, but there's 4 designations that within a military organization on the Pentagon level, whatever, on down. Yeah. But, and in fact, a company has those 3 designations. The Pentagon does. Every military organization in the country has those 3 designations. That's what everybody works under.
And there's always the other one, the B1, bribing.
What, B1, what?
Bribing.
Bribing?
Bribing.
Okay. So, John, what was up with your internet? That's unusual, huh?
Yeah, gotta wonder. I switched to a hard line.
Oh, okay.
You know, on just in case, so I can I snoop out my line.
Oh, okay.
I want to know what's going on because usually I don't know what's going on. I'm ready to shift locations again. I'm getting tired of the airport.
Okay. Well, you know, I guess with that stuff, you can't really be too paranoid because we know there's always the capability of the, you know, what you do is being monitored. I don't know. I was using this NordVPN for a bit, and now it's not working. I don't know why.
I was telling Kelly earlier, I'm not worried about my Amazon Alexa.
Oh, I actually didn't see what you responded to that. Yeah, I was surprised that you had an Alexa.
Have you looked into that yet? Can you change the voice? Who's the press secretary? Right now, I forget her name.
Who is the press secretary?
I don't know. Huckabee.
The one at the White House.
Sarah Sanders Huckabee.
Yeah.
I'd like Alexa to answer in a Sarah Huckabee Sanders voice and give me the same answers. Like, I'll have to get back to you on that, or just for every question. Just put me off.
You don't live in the South. You don't hear that accent all the time. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I was surprised you had that, though. The Alexa. I mean...
Well, everything. They make us put these red things over our cameras.
Oh. Wait, what did you say about it?
Became invisible.
I didn't see your message. Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you're still muted, Mitch.
Sure. What?
I see.
Everything on the internet is absorbed. It's all digital. It's all just traffic. So I mean, there's nothing private on the internet. So when the internet is the intelligence Cambridge That's very true.
But I wonder, is it really true, like in the Snowden movie, if you put your phone in the microwave, does that block things?
That would not be good.
Well, no, I don't mean turn it on. I just mean put it in there.
Okay.
Yes, I
At least to shield it.
Yeah.
Unless you're using 5G, that would work.
Oh, to shield it.
Huh.
I mean, it would go. It would be even better to get a steel screen and just wrap it in a steel screen. We used copper screens. It basically had to be completely sealed, and that's called a Faraday cage. And then you ground it, and the reference of the material to the ground would prevent anything from getting through.
You know, I mean, look at the way information is collected. Google knows all your searches, Facebook knows all your actions. People are giving their DNA away.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's all online. And I mean, these companies are.
Your internet is.
What they're for. So no, everything. There's no hiding anymore. There's cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
There's money
I know.
everywhere. Internet connection.
Yeah, it's weird. I've never heard you even like skip a beat before, and now it's acting all funny. No, I hear you. I wonder sometimes, like I usually will close my laptop now at night. I don't know, but you know, because I used to keep a Band-Aid over the little camera, but
yeah,
you know.
The black helicopters are coming after you.
I don't want to be paranoid, but you know, I mean, it's just the fact that, like, I figure there's so much noise out there. Like, who's particularly watching? And unless you're really on some watch list, what interest is it of any government or whatever to know what you're doing, right? But it's the fact that they can that is concerning. You know, it's like in the Snowden movie where Ed Snowden says to his girlfriend, she says, well, it doesn't matter. What does it matter? I'm not doing anything that I need to, you know, to hide. And he said, that's not the point. It's the fact that if you know, that your life is not your private, you know, your private business is not your private business. And I remember an interview, might have been, it was Bill Binney talking about how, it was when he was talking about the FISA court. But anyway, he was just saying that they have something. How does it continue? And he said they have something on everybody. Like no matter what, they've got something on you. You know, I thought that was interesting.
Or where's truth derived? I mean, the source of truth, you know, altering it.
Yeah, that's really scary. I first heard this after, well, now there are many, many hours of me talking online, but I was reading about something where they could really like splice, you know, put together like what you say into something completely fabricated. Just having your voice and your, you know, on video. So
yeah, and I'm not as worried about being monitored as there are so many other technologies that they could just as easily pull the information. So if listening to my Alexa, they can learn how boring I am. Cancel. That is my best protection. You know, because you know, if I block them being able to see me, if I start not using it, unplugging it,
right,
then are they going to start using hardened methods such as microwave Doppler?
Right.
And I do not want them using these other methods. So I don't want them coming into my house to plant things. And the other thing is, I am not important enough for them to want to.
Well, that's what I figure. Like, what, you know, what am I doing? I'm just
attract attention, then all of a sudden, if you attract attention, then they start concentrating on the person, you know, if they're doing the wrong things or whatever. So, I mean, there's too many people out there for them to look at everybody, you know, look at me because I'm not doing nothing.
Right.
I'm just the Second American Revolution.
Yeah. right. Just that.
But we can ask Alexa herself.
Yeah.
Alexa, are you evil?
He has no answer.
Nothing coming back.
I've only
Deny
ever
everything.
seen one of those. My friend in DC had one. I just had fun. I sat there on her couch saying all kinds of stuff about WikiLeaks and Ray McGovern and
Brain the size
everything
of
I could think of.
And I am waiting for commands to turn on lights, fans, popcorn cooker.
Delay there, I guess.
What was the answer? I missed that.
It's are you evil?
Okay.
Okay.
Apparently there is a delay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you could have all kinds of fun with it.
Echo.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was the Echo.
Try being
Not
stuck
Alexa.
in a
I don't know.
troll's
One of
basement before you call someone evil. Brain the size of Provo, Utah, and I am waiting for commands to turn on lights, fans, popcorn cooker.
It's really eerie how it gets inflections sometimes.
Ah.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how does it know from straight text where these inflections go? Do they have somebody talking? Are they training this thing by listening to people talk? Because some of it is just so eerily real that I don't get where it's coming from. Like, let's see, if I tell it to send the cat to bed, Alexa, dark side. Oh, sorry.
Purple light came on in the background. That went off.
Yeah. Well, there's different light sequences, so Victor can find his way back to the bed.
Okay.
Alexa, turn on lab light.
Okay.
But again, you hear these interactions, and the inflections are eerily human.
Mm-hmm. Alexa, go clean my kitchen.
Well, with Big Bang Theory, he had the Indian guy was in love with his cell phone, you know.
Well, my father had dementia, and he get on a loop where I've got to answer the same question over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And I said, well, let's ask Cortana. And I just get an immediate answer from Cortana. He'd buy that right off and just wander away. So again, like I said, am I worried about being monitored? No, I hope they are, and they know that I'm the most boring person they could ever monitor.
Yeah.
Whoever gets stuck with having to monitor me is like, oh, not him again. And I'm stuck on the pile of completely unimportant people and nobody.
You know, I tell my daughter certain things. You know, she knows about WikiLeaks, and I don't know. She, let's see, MLK. I showed her the William Pepper on Redacted tonight, and she says, "Why don't we learn that story at school?" So she knows a little bit, and she knows about oh my God, collateral murder. I told her about that. And so she kind of jokes around, but she'll say, like, you know, I went to DC recently. She's like, don't get assassinated. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything that I'm just an activist and, suburban mom. Like, nobody's that interested in following what each individual activist is doing, I don't think, unless you become a real danger. But I think it's just knowing, and here we are, look, we're doing everything publicly online, but it's the fact that if you wanted privacy, you'd really have to go to great lengths to have it. You couldn't have one of these, and I think that's what's disturbing. It's just what you would have to do to.
You couldn't have fillings, wear glasses, have any implants, or be hydrated. You have to be very
Dehydrated?
Even the amount of water in your body can make you. People are thinking it's the electronics about it. We are way beyond technology for just having to use electronics. We have passive means now, and of course, I couldn't name you anyone that I have. The technology is just so there that there's no reason, no way they can't be using it. However, you don't use technology like that unless you have a reason. And there are people, you can see them on the internet on YouTube channels that talk about the operations they had the night before, where the government came in and gave them more chips. And they believe that their body is full of chips causing them pain, that they have 5,000 or 6,000 chips in their body, that the government's performing experiments on them at night, adding more chips. And they're saying, do you feel like this? Do you feel like, normal symptoms that people feel once every few months anyway? And they've got all kinds of people worried about, my scalp itched last Tuesday.
Don't you think that's connected with mental illness, though?
It's mental illness, but after a while, there is a group mental illness. Like if you have a theater full of people and a dot is fixed in the middle of the screen, and everybody starts going, ooh, ooh, ooh. Pretty soon, the one person that actually doesn't know that it's a trick will think that the dot is moving on the screen. So we are completely influenced by the activities of the people around us. We are hackable.
Oh, yeah.
We have this science called marketing that know how to hack our brains like wild. They know how to make you pick up that cup.
I'm impervious to that. I don't fall for that stuff. No,
I thought I saw a tea bag with a sticker hanging off.
Oh, yogi tea? Yeah.
I go down a little bit. You got the sticker.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm not following you. Oh, yeah.
The tag. What does the tag say?
Yogi.
Yeah. And which brand do you buy next time?
What's on sale usually, actually.
Okay. But a lot of people are influenced by that. I buy Yogi. That's the Yogi. The brand I buy is the one I see last. And I see that name, and for some reason, it gets put in this little storage register up there. Yeah.
I don't know. I think sometimes that I go so much against the herd, like almost like to a fault sometimes when I don't need to. It's just the way I am. Like, I don't know.
Some people are more lemmings than others. And just because you're not a lemming on one topic doesn't mean you're a lemming on the other.
Good point. Yeah.
Penn and Teller will show how they do their tricks.
Yeah.
Most of their tricks are fooling people. And it is absolutely disgusting how good they are at programming you to do exactly what they want. And if you watch some of their old work, you'll learn like how they tell you to right in front of your face, put the card in the right place where they want you to put it.
Well, do you know what's that experiment where, something where you like deliver a shock to, I can't remember what it's called, but it was like.
I don't remember the name of that one either.
But they're like convincing people to do it. I don't remember it. Oh, what the hell is the name of it? I'll have to look it up. But I remember reading this and thinking, I would never follow along with that. Like, I'm like rebellious to a point of like, what I'm saying is kind of ridiculous sometimes. Like, I might even contradict myself just to not go along with the herd. That's how I think. But anyway, there's an experiment where you're told to shock someone, and I can't remember, they're like, someone's like coaching you into doing it. I forget. And most people go along with it. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, and the actor in the other room is acting like they're getting shocked, and they're like, oh,
right.
Oh God, please stop.
Right.
And then pretty soon they just kind of slump over and go quiet, like you killed them.
Yeah.
And these experiments have been ruled as unethical.
But what is it they tell them? They tell them something. I don't know, but I just
it was experiments to see what kind of prompting and whatever, how many people would go with just minimal prompting. Most people would go to the
Milgram experiment, is that it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like yeah, it's the measure to which you obey authority. No wonder I failed that one. I failed that one.
I did an experiment in school, part of a class, where we were looking at a new kind of chair that was supposed to cause less discomfort if you sat down all day at a computer. And we had to ask questions that went with the medical.
Okay. It says you're offline. Sorry, Mitch. I'm looking at what.
That's not me.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Somebody, I captured a MAC address hammering at my firewall.
Oh.
Offline. I got their MAC address. Their host name was called Host 7. They tried to come in.
Fun.
Wireless. Yeah.
What do you suppose that means? Oh, you froze again.
Yeah. Huh.
One time, see, they're messing with me. Are you getting messed? Are you getting all this?
Yeah.
Somebody's messing with you, actually. Yeah.
What do you think it is? Then?
Yeah. Huh.
One time, this Marine Corps, I don't know, helicopters or whatever. Anyways, they landed just outside there, right? And the wind's blowing and everything. And I go out and I'm like, what is going on? She comes over. She goes, you know where we could get some fuel? I'm like, how often does this happen?
Yeah, really.
You're asking me. I got a big open space next to me, and they like to land over there. And I'm pretty sure the electronics mess with me.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
but I don't do anything now, so I don't know who Host 7 is. But I got their MAC address.
How would you? Oh, all of a sudden now I kept saying my NordVPN wasn't working for like 5 days, and now all of a sudden it is.
Weird.
Are you Host 7?
No. No, I can see all mine. I can even see the one guy that cleans the airport. He asked to use my Wi-Fi, and I gave him the password, so I can see his machine or his cell phone that he hooked up with.
So how could you track and find out who that is?
Well, right now I just captured their MAC address, their machine address. What I would do is I'd spoof them out. I've got a script on one of my websites. They capture their IP address and then trace route them back to their destination.
Oh, fun.
You remember those chips I showed you on that motherboard?
Yeah.
One of them actually is unique to every computer, and it's issued a number when a computer manufacturer makes it, and that's this MAC address he's talking about. It's one of those chips as the number that identifies that device for talking to the internet.
Yeah, and with the first few characters of it, I could tell the vendor of the machine. I could look this up. It's a 3052. Because when I used to work for Sun, we had our own vendor code. It was the first three. I don't know if you call those octets. Anyways, yeah, that's the every machine, every device has a unique MAC address. Although you can fake it, so it's not as unique as it needs to be. But what I would do is I'd give them an address and then I'd trace route them back and figure out where they're coming from. This one lady, I did this job for this drone company. They were trying to get the bid for drone integration with airports and this and that. And she wanted on her webpage a comment field for people that visited her to leave a comment. And I said, this isn't a good idea. I go, you're just going to get a lot of junk in there. Oh, no, I want that. I said, okay, it's $33 an hour every time. And I got a trace route. Anyways, it was like within the first couple hours, all of a sudden she's getting these, pharmaceuticals and this and that. They're advertising on their thing. I'm trace routing them back, and they're all coming from Ukraine. I'm like, how are these people in the Ukraine finding this random lady doing drones at a desert nowhere airport?
It is midnight.
And I made it. She gave up after a week. I was billing her by the hour.
All right, guys, I'm starting to feel the base of my skull
Okay.
pain.
All
So
right.
Hey, could I share that populist pledge thing?
absolutely, yeah, do that, and then we'll sign off. Yeah, because you did some edits to it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Just recently.
Oh, that is, forgot where it is. Let's sit right here. See, okay, share. You know, this is the page here. This is the populist pledge.html, whatever. Up at the top of it, it says occupy elections, right? It's hey, this is the thing I think we need to do is occupy elections, so we elect people who are not Democrats and Republicans. Oh, how do we get down there? Okay, top of the page. Okay, I added this little link right here. It says prompt voter apathy.
Yep.
Voter, and if you now, I've got this thing. It says your pledge. This is where you can get your PDF of the pledge to fill out and sign. You're not going to vote for Democrats or Republicans anymore. This problem, voter apathy. This goes down to that's too big on my screen. What can I do about that? It doesn't do anything. Whoa. Okay. Okay. So this is a cartoon from.
That's a great cartoon.
Nick Anderson. And this is something that's. And this is something. There's 15,000 different sources that says that this is actually true.
Yeah.
60% of the people who are registered voters, or no, people who are eligible to vote, whether they're registered or unregistered, do not vote.
Right.
Now that sounds terrible, horrendous, and all that kind of thing, but I see that as something which is a very positive point because, see, if all those people don't vote, what if they did vote? What if we had everybody vote? Then we could fire all the Democrats and Republicans. We could have people represent the people. We could have populist candidates win elections.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is have everybody go out and vote. Okay, so when it says, this thing says we didn't vote because it won't make a difference. This cartoon says this. This is better. This is 1,000 words. You know, this picture's worth 1,000 words. It's worth 10,000 words.
It really is. I think I actually saw John Brakey share this originally.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, it really does.
Now I've got, see down here at the bottom, I've got, this is, I bought this thing for $75 to right to use it. Anderson editorial cartoon used with permission of Mick Anderson, the Washington Post Writers Group, and the Cartoonist Group. All rights reserved. So, and it's legal. And I've never done that before in my life. I think it's a very important cartoon.
Yes, it is.
So anyway, so it says, so you look at that, and then you look at the thing that Occupy Congress, everyone vote. We can put everybody in Congress. We can have 535 people represent the people in Congress if everybody went out and voted. Yeah. And we had enough candidates who are not Democrats or Republicans. We had populist candidates who are not part of the establishment. We could have a totally new Congress. And this is something that should make people smile like crazy because guess what? If we go out and vote, we select people that we want to be in office.
Well, once we get John's system
it's a very
in
promising
place.
message to me. Anyway, Occupy Congress, everyone vote. Okay, here's so this is where it goes to. Everyone vote, Occupy elections. This is I'm trying to push that. Some people say that that's not a good way to go. But to me, if we occupy elections, we can do whatever we want to with it. There's all kinds of here's a thing right here. This says one vote. This is on my main website, the Commons Institute of Political Reform. The power of one vote. This talks about the American people must be educated. There's a bunch of stuff. I've got a thing about Jesse Ventura. About Jesse Ventura winning the governorship back whenever he was a Reform Party guy who won the governorship in Minnesota. And it talks about the numbers and all this kind of stuff he went through. And he actually there was a 65% voter turnout that was 20% higher than any other election in the country in 1998. And he was an independent. We had more than the Democrat, Republican, and the Reform Party person on the ballot. And all of a sudden, the voter turnout went up by 20%.
But what happens when you have that, just like we saw with Bernie, and then they rig it and it makes people, it's by design, I think. Then people are even more apathetic because they're like, oh, we got all involved and it doesn't make any difference. And then it's even worse. And I just think it's by design.
Yeah, what that shows is the Democratic establishment right now I'm worried about this that vice president whatever getting into the race. If he gets in, that he could get the nomination, and all of a sudden all this effort we put into Bernie or whoever is wasted again. We have Trump get reelected. My God, what do you do then? You know, God, it's terrible. You know. But anyway, that's the bad side. Okay, but anyway, right now we get back to this. If we, of course, and we got, what else we got here? Just a minute now. Okay, this is that page. Okay, we got, here's this voter revolution pamphlet. This talks about all this stuff and what we need to do. We need to. It has this pledge. This pledge is inside the front cover of this. It's on the back cover. This pledge is something. Have people pledge to not vote for Democrats and Republicans. But then again, you got to find candidates. Got to get candidates on the ballot that people can vote for and have trust in. You know. And right now we don't have much of that because there's not enough independents and third-party people running. You know. This is what the IVA is all about, from my point of view, is to have people have a bottom-up infrastructure, so people can get involved.
And I think, Rich, we need to get you. I think I told you I mentioned you and your work to someone who works with Our Voice, and they're very interested. So I think we still need to have that meeting, like set up something and see if there's some collaboration there with what all the stuff you've done and what they're working on.
Who's the guy that does CFAR?
John Rachel.
John Rachel. Yes. He's looking at this stuff. He lives in Japan. He's married to a Japanese woman who lives over there in Japan. You know, it's sort of interesting that the guy that wrote the Throw campaign back in the 1990s is Jack Gargan, and he lives in Vietnam.
Good night, Mitch. Hey, Mitch. He's signing off. Yeah.
Well, he lives in Thailand. He's married to a Thai woman over there, and he has so he's deserted the country because it's so bad in this country. John Rachel in this country, you know.
There's several like that. I mean,
too many people, but okay.
I understand the sentiment. I mean, I have the ability to do that. I'm half Canadian. I just don't like the cold weather. But I have my moments where, I'm going to keep fighting, but at some point, like I said, I'm in kind of this apathetic state myself right now, but I'm not giving up, but it's very much an uphill battle. And
okay, let me show you this one thing here.
Yep.
Okay, this right here is this is the PDF of that pledge. Mm-hmm. Here it tells you it gives you instruction on there on how to fill out the pledge and how to insert the text to fill it out.
Yeah, and see if we could get all this stuff on the Our Voice platform on with their apps. I think that would be fantastic.
And it also has a place. Of course, that's one of the hard parts. Is I had to draw a signature on my cell phone that I can use to insert into my documents. It has my signature, And I don't know how technically savvy people are to be able to put the text in this, but you can do it with a free Adobe Acrobat program. So on this thing, it goes back into. You can go here and go back into the HTML, which is that page I was just on. It's on the PDF. Mm-hmm. And there's where's I'll go back to there's okay let's go back to that. Okay, there's a populist pledge PDF. This is your pledge. It says give journalists and your representatives a hard copy or e-file of your signed pledge. Mm-hmm. If you start giving journalists this, we have about 10 or 100,000 people start writing journalists and signing this pledge and saying, "Hey, we're tired of the two-party system. Mm-hmm. We're going to do something else." Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Then I think that would have an effect if we sent this to our representatives, state representatives, said, "I'm fed up with the system. We are going to bury you." Mm-hmm. They might start listening.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them.
Right, and the thing is, Rich, it's just. With all these things, I think people have to kind of get behind one thing for it to be effective. That's what I'm feeling right now, is that the progressive movement, it's strong, but it's kind of spread out, and we need to try to work together better, I think, to sort of push these things. Well,
we have populism is what is going to do it. We have left populists who are behind Bernie. We have
Mm-hmm.
right populists who are behind Trump.
Mm-hmm.
We have people neutral. There's all kind of pockets. Just like when I tried to put Perot on the ballot back in 1992,
Mm-hmm.
that crowd was the same crowd that exists today that's supporting Bernie
Right.
and Trump.
Yeah.
People who are tired of the two-party system.
Right, and they're not that different on a lot of things.
They don't know where to go. You know, it's a problem,
Mm-hmm.
or how to attack the problem
Yeah.
and solve it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and there's on this PDF also has a thing there for the here's the here's the book, and this is a free PDF for people that read the whole damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
It gets into
It looks good, Rich. Yeah, you've cleaned it up, and it looks good.
Okay, and here we are again in the book. I have this the truth about voter apathy. I have that in two different places in the book, because this is.
Cool.
People look at that and they say, they can see this little group over here, 1/3, and see this little group over here, 66%, and right here, 50%, that's when you start electing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit over 50%, you can elect people.
Yep.
Very damn simple. You know,
Yeah.
just simple.
Well,
numbers.
we have, well, no, we did talk to Sema Hernandez last month, but we have a new candidate that signed CWAC that we're talking to next week on Wednesday. But, you know, I think we're just going to have to plug away. Now, he's running as a Dem.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I'm always thrilled when I see them decide to abandon ship and run as an independent. But, you know, I also realize that each district is different, and, you know, it's a huge country, and the candidate has to decide whatever their best chance is, I guess. But
yeah,
anyway, we'll keep pushing what you're saying, and I believe in this. I do. I just think that
this is right here. It's the contents that I sort of modeled this thing off common sense, this is common sense too, I call it, which is the overdue voter revolution. It's a condemnation of the two-party system, actually, basically.
Okay.
As the overdue voter revolution, the perception of right and wrong, the need to increase voter choices, term limits, campaign finance reform, limitations for lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
It's this whole thing, minimum non-taxable earnings, the long overdue maximum wage. We need to get rid of the damn billionaires, you know. They're in the country and everything.
I also told this guy, John Lancelot, about you. He is really big on the Dem exit strategy and is wanting to really build. So I told him about you, and I think it'd be good to maybe get you two together to talk also.
That'd be interesting. Well, Dem exit and our exit too.
Yeah, right.
Trump exit for a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that are damn Trump people who support Trump. Mm-hmm. One woman who's a lifetime Democrat who decided, after Bernie lost, she supported Bernie.
Right.
She worked in his campaign full time.
Mm-hmm.
Right after he lost the thing, she began to support Trump.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me a bit.
She's a very capable person. She was a corporate person, actually. You know, very smart woman. Mm-hmm. She's behind. She's the leader of the term limits effort, U.S. term limits in Louisville.
Wow. I think a lot of people like that, they don't want to be vocal about the fact. They don't want to be ridiculed for the fact that they went that far in their anti-establishment vote, because I just think they're secretive about it. They don't really want to advertise.
The Republicans would be an anti-establishment. No,
it was never Hillary.
Right, exactly.
What Hillary did to Bernie, people was, there's no way they're voting for Hillary.
Right. I mean, I was angry as hell. I wouldn't have gone that far to vote for Trump, but I understood how people felt, that did that.
Well, I voted for Joe Stein because that was an alternate for me.
Right, me too. Right.
Yeah.
Because I've never.
So you want 100% voter turnout, right?
That would be a goal. Right now, we have 33%. Right now, we have 10% in most primaries. We have 5% in some primaries.
I could do it for $3 billion. Here's how.
Okay.
There's 146,311 registered voters, right? I want to give each registered voter $20 voucher to vote.
Yeah.
You 2,926.
There, we've solved everything. We've solved it all.
Yeah, there's the solution.
Okay, but but we also have to have the candidates to elect, and they're not Democrats and Republicans if we want things to actually change. We have to have people who will change the system.
Yeah.
We need to have a revolution like Bernie talks about.
Yes, we do. Well, we all have to keep.
Disable two parties. Get rid of both parties and just have everything you can vote for anybody. Then it'll basically, I think it would become an issues race.
Like the Me Vote thing. Do you remember that? I think I shared that with you. Me Vote, M-I Vote. It's something, I think it's Australian, but I don't know. Here, I'll send the link. It's M-I. Hang on, let me look it up.
I mean, they can have a Republican club and a Democratic club.
Me Vote.
Or they might, decide to cast their votes together, but it should be a club. It shouldn't be a party that controls elections.
Let me ask one other question, you guys. All the people here on this thing.
Yeah.
This is a Occupy. This is a popular voter pledge. This is filled out by Richard L. Stevens, and that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm wondering how many people would be willing to fill this out, because this is my ID,
mm-hmm.
And this is I get down here, it's got my home address.
I think most people.
My city and state, my voter precinct,
mm-hmm.
where I live, Commonwealth of Kentucky, 3rd day of May 2018. That's when I signed it at Louisville, Kentucky, and there's my signature, which I drew with my finger on my cell phone, and it looks like my signature. It's just a pretty good representative of signature.
I think most people would sign. I mean,
what I wonder how many people. Now, I feel, because I'm about to start sending this out to my representatives and to journalists.
Mm-hmm.
Do I black out the address?
I mean,
So do I want to be exposed? I want somebody to see this. Some nut that's got a gun out there that says that like my idea comes out.
Yeah, for your own privacy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. I just figure people can look you up anyway and figure out where you are if they really want to.
Hell, I met some girl at this dance like a couple of years ago. She was she was a Japanese girl I lived up in Indianapolis. I had her name, which was sort of an unusual name. I looked up her thing on the internet, looked it up, and I found her house. I knew how much.
Oh yeah, 2 seconds.
I knew that damn near everything about her, and I just got it off the net just casually,
Yep, it's easy.
I found out where she was. I could go in with my Google Maps and I could look at her house.
Yeah, you can do that. It's really easy.
So
I mean,
how many people in this group would actually have enough guts?
I'd do it. I mean, because like I said, people can just look up property tax stuff or whatever and figure out my address. So I wouldn't.
Okay, you would. How many other people here would sign this thing? Would actually fill it out and send it in to journalists and to their representatives?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're saying what I believe. We got to pull out of both parties and just vote our issues, vote our conscience.
Right. And vote for the people. For sustainable society. So people aren't on drugs, so people have jobs, so people can earn a living, so, all that stuff,
Right.
Most people would limit it to
name
and postcode.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we better not kill Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. I really better go now. I'm feeling it. But Rich, I think we just need to keep keep having you on, and when we do panels, especially with independent candidates as we go forward into 2019 and and just keep talking about this.
That would do this, that would expose themselves.
Yeah, I'd lose the address line, but I'd lose city, state, voting precinct.
I mean, that's what change.org does. They have you just put your zip code, and so you could just model it after that.
So you would maybe leave out the address line, the street line.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be my only objection. My signature. But I don't know.
If you go to the level of just the zip code, even if your name is John Smith, there's still not that many per zip code.
Yeah, right. Well, and you also have your voting precinct in there, which I think is an important thing. That identifies a person as a voter, which is
there's no privacy anyway, so. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm gonna not be
I'm
here.
sorry for keeping on, but I'm glad you guys looked at this, and it's something I'm working on, and I'm trying to start the Second American Revolution, quite frankly.
I know, Rich, you've done a lot of good work over a lot of years, and I think it's very valuable.
The response I've had to this work so far, I have that cartoon, and I've used that on my Facebook page, and I've had really, really strong responses to what I've been doing, which I hadn't had before.
Yeah, it grabs people's attention. Yeah. It does.
I mean, that cartoon really does a lot. Anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate. I
got the website.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll keep doing it. Hopefully I'll be over a little bit of my general apathy towards politics when I get back from my little vacation. So the next 2 Saturdays I won't be on, but when I get back, and maybe it won't be so like dreary like Seattle here either. That'll be helpful.
Where are you now, Kelly?
I'm in North Carolina, but it's just.
Oh, you're at home, okay.
Yeah, I'm at home, but it's just this time of year is bad. So anyway, it should be good by the time we get back, and I think we'll get ramped back up. But I'm just kind of brainstorming on some ideas, formats, just a way to do things differently. I'm having a lot of really good responses on that, and having That's
people
good.
to talk to forever like John Rachel. He's one of them. He's very interested. He expressed a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, it's really good. So, okay, we'll just keep plugging away. I think it's good stuff. Good work.
Right, Brian. Good night.
Okay, good night, everybody. See you guys in like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, good night. Good night, everybody.
And the share so we get our lead meeting sites. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the education. I appreciate it. I learned a lot tonight. Thank you.
All right, good night.
CS2PR.